吹牛逼吹起来了，要不切过去了？
也可以，走吧。
我们先切了，好吧？这边吹起来了已经。
去那个什么 ESLC 嘛。
呀 ，ESLC 台 ，Hastim 跟那个 Lambo 是 C 台的2个解说。他牛逼都吹起来了呀，他们。
这2个逼都没有去卡特维兹，我靠，气的一逼。
就家里面播嘛，只能当
对啊，
只能他妈当2个解说挣点外快了呀。那不就是赛的老师跟鸟哥你妈每年 WTO 过来挣外快吗？一个道理的呀。他妈的，赢不了，他妈参加不了就换个方式。就像我小时候为什么要当解说，就是他妈当不了选手，上不了舞台，就换一个方式，曲线救国。老子依旧还在这个舞台上。鸟哥一场挣多少钱啊？我们好像我们都是按那个一场解说，不是一场啊，一天是给2000差不多，1500还是2000，反正，对吧？
其实我并不知道这多少，
差不多吧，差不多就一天是2000左右吧。美元那不是人民币，
美元有点过了，美元我们付不起。
一般电竞的解说现在在外面都是1500到2000，你什么项目都差不多。英雄联盟的差不多也是2000，可能项目贵一点的可能有3000多的也有，但是一般来说就2000就差不多了。对解说来说，差不多就这个价，在外面。
其实你 LPL 的解说其实也差不多这个价，没有那么
解说差不多都是这样
那么高的。
好了，来了啊，不扯了。李平南对
看到李平南的比赛，
刚好我去撒泡尿，
没有摄像头有点可惜啊。这次李平南去其实心态还挺好的，我去之前我跟他聊了蛮久的。他这次的目标是进入8强，先进入8强。就相对来说，这个目标我认为对的。那他认为小组赛不是很好打。
But that's not going to be the case here because Stats went for a post-gateway scout, and rather than scouting for any proxies，
不，你这个就是你先进8强，再想着其他的后面的事情嘛，那对不对嘛？这个小组，李平南就觉得这个小组其实他未必能拿到小组第一，他大概率如果要出现的话，就是小组第2、小组第3出现，然后打12进8的比赛。
And on the other hand，this was a gas first double gas, and then into a marine first, and then a fast factory. Oh,
yeah. It is the earliest possible factory, and he's floating a lot of gas doing so. He pulled one out of.
打本是这个小组里面他必须要战胜的对手，因为这个小组其实这些选手里面把本相对来说从实力来说是比较弱的一个选手了。一个把本，一个帮你，这2个人他必须要战胜。然后克莱姆还有这个朗格纳洛克，他只要赢1场，他就肯定是小组这个第2或者第3名了。因为这个小组里面，朗格纳洛克基本上就是他的爹，他最近比赛都没怎么赢过他。然后克莱姆和 Q 的 TVT 他也觉得不是很好打。
Maybe something like, straight mines?
Well, it's gonna be cloaked mines, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be cloaked mines.
Could it be the Thor All-in? Because he's still mining 3 off of each.
上来第一把非常的这个就打得非常的激进啊！这个战术应该是他赛前已经准备好的，先投地雷。这个战术的话应该是投4颗雷啊。
And because you need some more power out of the Marines as well. So. To me, this seems like just a straight.
有没有隐形地雷的说法？我们看一下。隐形地雷投隐形地雷 ，VA 下去了。他没有跟把本正常打，我觉得挺好的，用战术。把本这边。VC3兵营没有 VR 呀，这个把本没有 VR 的话，这地雷现在这个时间点至少大2轮啊。我觉得从战术博弈上来说的话，已经是打到了把本的一个痛处。还有无限投地雷吗？无限投地雷。好，把本的 VR 明显是下晚了。一颗走路雷，然后家里面先投，把你的这个追猎吸引到家里面，然后走路雷再走进去，想法非常不错，直接投进来，走路雷可以。哎呀，炸4个农民没炸好这个地雷，再走2个地雷进来，下去，哎呦，等第2轮。他肯定能炸2轮，因为这个 VR 的时间明显你可以感受到，哎，这把本感觉也不是很好啊，这提前拉的。
我回来了，啥情况啊？
优势很大
啊，真的吗？
这种还不优势很大？
你们那不是少几个农民吗？
不是，
再大一次。
他投隐形地雷。
把本 OB 不是要出来了吗
？OB 是要出来，但是好像刚才把本好像没钱，他造不了 OB， 还是没气，把本没气，现在开始点，那还得再炸1轮，这种还不是优势很大？优势大不大嘛？大，哎，地雷炸3轮，
挺大的。主要是他的农民很长一段时间没踩。
对呀。
你们的3矿已经放下去了，但是从历史战绩上来看，是这个把本领先很多的。
啊，我不说历史，我就说你们这种局面，你们如果说李培南还没有优势的话，这个就有点争议。
对呀，李培南没2矿的呀，你在说什么东西啊？
哎呀，你不要慌！
他们在说什么东西啊？我还以为他开的3矿，他你妈开的是2矿。
他你妈单矿投当然没2矿了，你慌什么？
他们在说什么东西啊？他他妈哪来的优势啊？
有优势，你不要慌，好吧？
你这鸡巴就把解说我靠了，误导群众是吧？我以为他开的是3矿。
直接推，这李培南推进。不过如果把本在家里面守的话，坦克能够站在门口，那基本上这个推进就效果就不错。
不是把本没开3矿的，他这波推进怎么说呢？
直接推2矿去的呀。
对呀，只能说推2矿嘛，不然打个 OB 还行。4个追猎，
但没有几个追猎啊，没几个追猎啊，
就4个追猎，不好守，把本不好守，就4个追猎。
2
个坦克往前推就好了。
但里面没有兴奋剂。
架了。坦克架好。李培南这个是有2矿的，不是单矿一波，还好。
对，他都有兴奋剂。
打2个兵营也行啊，打2个兵营也很赚。好了，换追猎了，换1个坦克死2个追猎，然后调1个兵营。李培南关键是他的炮台还没扔呢，第2个坦克马上又要到了。兴奋剂刚开始升，把本
2个兵全
核电站结束了，马上。
你就在这边跟他顶啊，顶着打呀。
把本打不了，他这个不对，打不了2个坦克了，炮台还没扔呢。这个坦克他妈的是不是太过了？我觉得李培南坦克还在往前顶。
我跟你说了，真的优势很大，你又不信，我靠，你看到没有？这推过去就赢了。
赢了！
这些人真的是大惊小怪，我靠！
伦哥声音好大。
前期投成这样，你跟我说没有优势，
声音好大。我开始以为他是3矿投成这样，你知道吗？
毛怎么可能3矿投成这样？
3矿投成这样，他妈还打个毛啊？怎么农民那么少？
Yeah, but he can use it as a setup. Maybe it wasn't his favorite build to use, but maybe it was specific for Stats. Maybe he even knew that because Stats was streaming a lot. Maybe he knew that Stats like to go Twilight even if he scouts
这场比赛只能说，就把本的打法被里佩人完爆。把本是先 VC， 然后慢 VR 的打法，刚好被这个空投地雷投到，一投他就很乱。
不管怎么样，赢了就好了。
That you gamble on one specific thing happening, and you try to blind counter that really hard, because in that case you're like, okay, then I'm really.
你们这些他妈的什么下跪道歉，他妈的如果解说错了一个东西，他妈叫下跪道歉，那你妈的这全世界的解说都他妈得跪下来。
Yeah, it was the wrong read, but it is definitely true. Is that very often?
你们在说什么东西啊
？Something aggressive is coming. If you are the underdog, just betting, just all your money on one horse, I think is not a bad strategy at all. Especially if there's not that many options, and also if Cyclone is that powerful right now in the current meta, and it's so common to see with these build orders, that yeah, I'm not surprised that Stats did do that. Although the third game.
今天我们对难得的 IEM 的比赛，大家不要带节奏，好吧？
好好看比赛，好好看比赛。坊间跟你们吹吹牛逼，比赛还是好好看，好吧？很久没有看这种线下大赛了。而且刚好这个比赛还是在黄金时间，大家看起来也很爽，也不是什么现在熬到半夜4点钟了才开始有这个比赛，对吧？
没错。
场间我们可以吹吹牛逼，但是在这个比赛开始之后，还是好好看比赛。现在星际的比赛真的是看一场少一场。你们也不敢确认今年这个沙特有星际，明年会不会继续有？这个都说不清楚的。
这倒是真的，
对吧？看一年少一年，反正今年他有，大家就继续看。妈，明年如果沙特人说星际没有了，石油杯如果没有了，那妈的星际就直接雪崩。
这个是星际的末日，好吧？这是星际的末日。黄哥的说法没什么错。
So even if a water map isn't necessarily toss favored,
但今年是
今年有吗？今年已经宣布了，今年已经宣布有了。明年再说。WTO 也撑不住呀！你妈的，你们是不是他妈高估 WTO 了？
我们的赛事光靠我们养不活战队，养不活选手。
是呀 ，WTO 也没这个实力啊。
Because I think Trigger played this as well.
Yeah, I mean it's not a terrible map. It's just I don't like it as much as we have loaded into it.
好了，第二场来了，我们看出点位。这边蓝色的神族就是把本处在了右下角4点钟位置，左上角红色的人族就是李培南，是出生在了10点钟的位置。
3 toss maps usually being golden or equilibrium, and Ratu said.
Yeah. 像沙特这个比赛，就奖金说什么历史最高什么，就是给大家一个盼头，那大家才会去练嘛。
对，对不对？他都说这句话了，我觉得100万美金是应该有的。
没错，
说不定他给你来个惊喜，给你整个150万。
都150万，干脆200万算了。
对沙特人来说，就是他妈点个头的事。
不就是数字改一下的事情吗？
对啊。
And we kept it hidden. Actually, we didn't even keep it hidden. We complained about it for so long. Because there was this one Terran player on the European ladder that had been doing it, called Ziggy. Ziggy was doing eBay blocks with gas.
现在反正还没有公布，奖金还没有公布，但是已经宣布是什么历史最高奖金的嘛。
It was really difficult to beat, and we've been talking about it. It's like, man, this is hard.
好了，把本这盘这个侦查非常的快啊，第一把被阴了。
And you think that we'd be discussing high level stuff?
你看他还是双气开。
Was just how to beat Ziggy. Both his 1-1-1 base all in and his eBay block. That was legitimately just it.
这个小组其实TPT 才是关键，我觉得这个小组主要有3个 T。
历史最高现在多少？历史最高现在70万美金，76万还是70万？我忘记了。就那个 WCS 有一年发过一次70万。他肯定要超过70万嘛，超过70万那不得整个100万。妈总不能70万0.1块吧？他你妈乌鸦呢？他总应该超一点吧
？100万合理啊。
didn't play it for like 3 years. So now it's back again. Once again, Ziggy gets no credit.
Yeah.
It's an unfair world we live in.
yeah, being censored. Poor Ziggy. What is this build by Stats? This is such an uncommon opener.
没闪出来一下啊。
We just don't see this at all in the current meta game. Like we really just don't. I'm very surprised to see all of this.
这版李佩南就相对来说就打得比较保守了。
That's just the standard response that Stats has against the double gas openers that we're seeing here out of Oliveira. Once again, we're gonna see a Twilight Council.
还是 VC 的开局。
版本感觉就是这个套路，应该是。
对。
李培南今天的比赛必须要2场都要拿下，不管是打邦尼也好，打版本也好，这2场拿下才是他奠定明天出线的基础。
对，
这2场输1场，其实对他明天出线就压力会很大。
He's not playing against the same thing at all. I guess this is just his standard response to a.
你看他每次都是慢 VR， 看到没有？都是先把这个补丁个点了之后再 VR。
这把本经济比他好很多啊，这把。
So yeah, I think he just maybe didn't realize it was gas first, or he just didn't read.
这版打太保守了。
It seems to be a standard response. One blind battery at the natural once again, getting a lot of stalkers early on, completely skipping the adapt, which is usually the most common response. As Oliveira is going for the double cyclone drop, it will hit the main base. There is no vision on the map, so that's just kind of needs to blindly predict. He is warping in 1 stalker in the main base, which does die to 2 cyclones.
Yeah,
it's very far outside as well.
布林克没有现在都还有机会。
2个导弹车先搞一波，
还可以。
导弹车他妈的，哎，运输机稍微注意点啊！
走了呀，
稍微注意点，
你没有
不要
布林克就能烧。
占点便宜只能说。
The scary part might be the follow-up here, which is going to be to me, seems like a marine tank push. And in order to deal with that marine tank push, you need to be on the map. Stats is building a prism here.
I mean,
我刚才那个看到你在刷追猎也应该懂了嘛，就是 VCVR 的开局嘛。
And at the same time, he's also still warping in stalkers consistently, while Oliveira is just trying to play defensive, while being down considerably in worker.
没开3过直接 VG 啊！ 他
他
要直接闪电。
版本还是比较原的。来看看解放者，他原来那套嘛，就是直接跳闪电。
Yeah, I mean, I guess he did see the triple gate blink.
架解放者先不急啊，架在后面先挂着。
关键是看这个死神
又推了吗？第一波
看到 BT 的科技，
第一波又推了，又是这个 timing 点。家里面新产兵，他应该是新产兵来防，把本正面没什么兵啊。如果把本再刷一波，那正面就没兵了。把本肯定就觉得不对了，他妈的，这他妈一个兵都没有，家里面。看到了，把本几个兵，1、2、3、4、5、6个兵，6个兵，
现在没有也没有角速啊，又是架在这个位置，
这位置架的还行，不算很突进。
解
放者来了，解放者来了，解放者不要被秒，解放者不要被秒！哎呀，他这个解放者走位有些问题啊，我家里面应该解决了，又打掉一个兵营，第2个兵营给他打掉。这个解放者如果在的话，威力会大很多。这波好了，架到脸上，直接飙坦克，把本核电站开，
但很伤啊。
哎，就是少个解放者，少个坦克，现在就是李培南这个坦克收的还是有问题。
这输出有点不太
够了，他输出，你说多一个解放者，他就很难受。李培南这种一波真的经常把自己打死。强行来了，但没有兴奋剂，兴奋剂还没好，家里面又被插了，30个农民鸟窝被掏了。李培南搏命呢，他的兵全部往前接，搏命呢。把本有几个兵营啊？2个兵营，把本只有3个兵营，3个兵营。拖农民把本拼了，李培南兴奋剂还差一点点时间，强瞄坦克，点追猎，点掉2个，3个追猎，李培南继续接兵，继续换，兴奋剂马上好了，5秒钟，家里面就这么回事了，给他搏命。
and kicking well.
他们两线都在管，
不管了，
直接兴奋剂一针砸上去，但又刷了3个追猎，能打
后面还要
他打不穿啊！这边有5个追猎，
打不穿。
哎呀！
Very nice.
哎呀，这大，算了，我去吃会儿饭。
After he killed his first 8 workers or so, with the prism, I was thinking to myself, I feel like you should go back home with the, with the workers and the prism. I feel like it wouldn't be a bad call to just go home, clear that push, and then play from ahead. But Stats said no. I think I can hold, and I think I can kill my opponent at the same time.
打得太拼了，里边的真的打得太拼。
His defensive resources. But it did the same thing there for Oliveira. Reinforcements were not really capable of joining up with the main army. SCVs all died. And yeah, they ended up being good enough.
你们不要慌，1比1，慌什么
？The main things that Stats did very well was not getting a third base, which once again wasn't in the plans. His plan seems to actually be very simple. That's to play 3-gate blink with a prism harass into fast Templar archives and then trying to rush out Storm. And as a result of delaying that third base for a long time, he actually
难受呢，这是有点难受。我说实话，这个
2 gates on the low ground, a lot of Protoss
这场真输不起啊！这场
not Stats because Stats actually had gateway 4 and 5 already up in the.
如果今天他是1胜1败的话，那明天他就要超神发挥。
And with the help of some aggressive blink forwards and some big warpins, managed to clear that.
Yeah, well played by Stats.
不管怎么样，你在这个小组里面，一个小组6个选手，你至少要3胜你才能够出现，对不对？
So going for the late third Nexus makes a lot of sense. So good preparation in a way as well from Stats, and we saw how a build can look very stupid in one game, and then in the next game it can look really strong. So it's not just what is right in front of you. What is the determining factor if a build order is good or not? You can't just judge it off of one result, because in this game it looked much better.
Yeah, the build looked better, but of course you could also say I don't think there's such a thing as a one size fits all, which is kind of what Stats is trying to go for with this setup. But we
来了，好吧，兄弟们来了。
In game number 3 already,
决胜局了。
here on site Delta, I am very surprised by these maps. So I just don't understand what Oliveira ended up vetoing then. Because Golden Aura and Side Delta are two maps that Side Delta is one of these maps where some Terrans think it's really good for Terran, and other Terrans think it's a little bit Protoss favored. Because it can be hard to hold base, for example. It's not so straightforward. So once there's a high disruptor count, that can be tricky. So I'm a little bit surprised here.
I'm pretty sure it's Equilibrium and Dratoset, right? That much
standard
is for certain, and then it's probably Alkione.
主要是李培南的打法就第2盘就刚才那盘就有点保守，经济运营上完全就有差距。把本在第1场失败的情况下，他还是贯彻了自己的打法，没有选择退缩。
Yeah,
because I think the TOS Vitos are Solaris, Hardlet, and whatever else we didn't see yet.
好，第一时间探路。 确认你的战术。
Okay, so I'm going to take it over for the Casa. Stats is doing the gateway scout once again. Oliveira for the first time in this series opening.
这一盘里边应该是单兵开矿，他打算跟把本打10。
Going for the Reaper expand. This is a build that Hecate, yeah.
你就正常跟把本打就好了。我是觉得就不要去老是想要去打一波，对吧
What? No, I can't look it up. Then the game starts lagging.
单兵开矿。
Yeah, just had to look it up in my mind, man. That's how I do it.
Okay, yeah. Usually I go over my vetoes, and then it becomes very obvious what all the maps are.
Yeah, true. Except I don't veto Hecate usually, so that doesn't work either, because it's not one of them.
No, I mean you go. Let's say you go over the.
把本反正侦查做的非常到位啊，这种就是真的是老选手。
Yeah.
And then the Zerg. I mean the Zerg usually vetoes.
就他不会因为比分落后或者怎么样，然后改变战术的。他赛前制定好的战术，他就赛前怎么制定好的战术，他就怎么用。
All right, I think.
真的老选手。
Has a single build.
It looks like it right now. Yeah. It looks like it's the double stalker opener into the Twilight Council. So we were maybe overthinking it a little bit.
而且把本就一套 VC 的开局。
That's locked. That's locked.
哎，
Let's go forward.
完了。 啊，没堵住，能走。
The grain was on cooldown. This would have been a catch.
他有这条 VC 战术，他其他都不管的。
But we get to see how his build now looks in a normal game. The one thing this can be very good against is if you go up against like marine openers where they expand and they don't make a bunker, which Bian used to sometimes, and Rotty would always mold over trigger not doing it, even though, you know, he knows that he does that. But usually you really just want that adept across the map to see what the barracks is producing, or to see if there's a factory.
就火力侦查一下，如果看到2个追猎的话，就可以屏蔽掉 VS 的开局了。一般你 VS 开局前期你是要出使徒的，你没有那么多气。
No, I think that's a fine response indeed. Hey, sorry, I'm just confused by the second barracks. This is really freaking fast.
还是先投地雷。
It looks like 2-1-1-esque with an initial medevac opener. Gumio likes to play these types of builds against Zerg sometimes as well. It's kind of an off meta build.
哇靠，3分50秒3开。
Play earlier second Rex against Protoss very frequently in the Katowice that he won.
No, he played factory into 3 Rex a lot.
Factory into 3 Rex.
Yeah. No, this is.
先投地雷，投出去再说。
Yeah, I think it's just an off meta timing where you hit slightly earlier than the Protoss expects.
这个地雷就是防止靶本如果是什么3兵营追猎来打一波的话，这个能够牵制住你几个追猎。投完一轮就在你后面挂着，你来也不行，不来也不行，你就只能防守。看到3矿了，靶本这边细节做得很好啊。 有部队在防守，但是里边贴边如果进去的话，靶本这个位置好像打不到。
I'm just not familiar at all with what it is that Stats is doing here, because this is you don't see quick forges with 4 gas, but then again he's also not really mining from the 4th gas, so maybe that 4th gas is a fake, but it hasn't been scouted, so it's a terrible fake.
I think it might just be a Zealot Stalker this game. So he's trying to play with what his opponent knows and then try to go from there. As he also works.
家里面靶本这些部队的话，其实李平南防守起来没有什么压力啊。这个部队毕竟不多。
He's checking with observer and there is no.
里边随便守。
Can he get into the main base without Oliveira spotting? No, he absolutely cannot.
过来看一眼，看到你那么多兵啊，算了呀。
It would be a huge disaster for him, as he just warped in a sentry. Still not saturated the gas, so I think it is exactly what he's doing. He's playing just Zealot Stalker, trying to completely destroy a push if Oliveira was to move out.
但靶本这个运营真的很好。
We currently have 2 gates done, 6 more on the way.
兵营也补齐了。
And this is one of those things that Oliveira could actually be really strong against.
不好弄啊。
You're not going to have all your warp-ins, because this timing is just going to be 25-30 seconds quicker than usual.
正面暂时也没有太多的机会。
This actually would have been extremely bad against Raven harass because you have no units around. I guess he still has.
里边的暴兵是非常的凶啊，暴兵现在战斗人口非常的高，他要等运输机。好了，2个运输机要出门了，第一波。
No extra adepts, no other crap is being added in. It's gonna lose that observer, and
队列稍微耗一下，运输机已经开始动了，找机会，但是看到对面靶本这边有很多的追猎在等着他运输机，好绕出去，这波靶本应该是没看到，看到了吗？哎，看到了，现在这样看到了。这一波部队还是非常的厚的，他是投一个双线啊，投2矿，然后正面主力去打3矿吗？啊，他直接投3矿，运输机不能死，是隐形地雷，可以，这波可以。正面没有运输机啊，但是运输机要回来。
And if he does wait a bit and then he hits as the first Colossus is on the way, I think this is the best time.
因为靶本这个兵营补得很快，所以说他瞬间他就把自己的部队的这个兵营补起来了。外面还要有能进空投这个差。李平南后续又来了一波部队，这一波正面他肯定是要打了。 这波肯定要打，家里面应该会做能进啊，但是就看这波正面先抢位置，点掉一个哨兵，把位置抢到， 直接拱上去，核电站开起来了，早就把核电站点了呀！我靠，顶着核电站在这边干，核电站点了，只有4个追猎，后续追猎再上来，但是这边已经被打穿了。赢了，应该赢了。啊，点，你擦，跟你换，就跟你换。版本人口瞬间只有77啊！农民全部死光，后续3个光头其实也是战斗力啊！这个时候，里面这个时候其实我觉得应该不要急，稍微往后面退一退，保存好自己运输机啊，把后面的部队续上来再打。
1200 minerals and 400 gas in the bank, he can be producing for the next few years. As we have
农民数量是压下来了，但是总的来说，版本因为有3矿的情况，而且版本的具象科技也出来了。下一波其实李培南要打多线，不能够正面去，正面硬刚未必刚得进去。我觉得这个时候不能着急啊，因为李培南的科技也起来了，他的鬼兵的科技也起来了，不着急，守住就行，自己围巾也有。只要把这个雪球慢慢把它滚大，这一盘机会是非常大的。
If Oliveira would go for timing right now, Stats is just trying to stay alive now. I think Stats' position was really good, but yeah, lacking 10 stalkers while your opponent has the entire army there was a little bit too much.
现在这个时间点肯定是优势，这个是没有悬念的，只是说现在李培南要把这个雪球慢慢滚大，不能够现在去送兵。
But your army is between natural and third base. You don't need all the stalkers in the natural as well.
Yeah, one more interesting thing there, by the way, is that he went for basically
有围巾、有鬼兵的时候再打一波。
Only had a single sentry, and usually with pure range armies, you want to get higher sentry counts.
李培南觉得自己有机会啊，就有点按捺不住。
Cut your opponent's army in half, and actually helps.
有鬼兵了，已经有鬼兵，围巾只有1个呀，但运输机很多。版本这边2个巨像未必扫得动啊，因为运输机太多了。EMP， 但这个时候不能打，有核电站的，就算中了 EMP 也没用。不能着急，真的不能着急，自己4王开起来，对，这个时候回去，这回去是对的。就这个时间点就可以看出李培南在处理这种局面还是挺成熟的。
The one thing that can still happen is that there could be ghost storms. If Stats splits his High Templar as well, maybe flanks with some of the High Templars, and Oliveira doesn't see them beforehand, doesn't get the EMPs.
因为你巨像毕竟就只有2个，而且你这个闪电的科技还是被 EMP 克的。
At the same time, it feels like the medevac count is so high.
对，从科技角度来说，你马上2攻2防好了，等2攻2防了之后再去打。
If you have Storm against medevac Marauder Ghost, is that it's nice if you hit them, but they can often just heal up, and it's not really the end of the world. So we're gonna have to wait and see how that's all gonna
雷达撒一把呀
out over here. We have
我靠 EMP 这个 EMP 基本上打光了，再 EMP 后续有闪电，巨像倒了一个，第2个巨像也要倒，好，第2个巨像也倒了， EMP 有没有闪电全部闪完了？应该是没有闪电了，这时候就是 A， 李培南应该是能拿下了这波，往后面退一退，后面还有地雷呢，又来2把闪电。但这波交换下来，李培南是大赚啊！来嘛！我靠，核电站开起来，这个还是有点点不动。再 EMP， 但这个核电站很烦，一直在加白球，强硬点白球，白球顶不住，核电站剪掉。家里面被搞了，但是正面应该是能打赢啊！正面GG。我靠，有惊无险2比1。
There were a couple of mistakes, but given the fact that
啊，避台吗？不是，他只是赢了他卡托，妈的，他只是赢了他卡托维兹第一场小组赛，你们搞得你妈他好像已经夺冠了一样。